Funny thing, the other day at Mike Tomlin's post-game press conference, not the one today. We'll get to the one today. He was asked whether or not the Russell Wilson decision was one of his boldest, meaning of his career. And you could tell he was thinking about the answer and maybe thinking about whether or not he should even say it. And then he went and said it. He said, "That's why I'm well compensated." And he stood up like this and went out of the room. That's when this team, not just this head coach, is starting to find some swagger. Good afternoon to you. Good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot show that comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern time every weekday. This team just might be pretty good. How good? Probably not Chiefs good. I think they operate kind of on their own level. But I will say that 5-2 is pretty good. First in the AFC North is pretty good. 4-1 inside the conference is pretty good. All of these things are setting up nicely. If, and I'm not getting ahead of anything here, if they were to beat New Jersey's other team next Monday, you'd be looking at 6-2, heading into a bye, heading into a second half of the schedule that, listen, I can say this stuff. They can't. If you hear a player say something like, "Boy, that second half of the schedule sure looks a lot lighter than it did back in May or whenever it came out," they'd get trashed, and rightly so. Because now you're looking ahead too far, you're looking past the Giants, and doesn't matter. I can do that. The second half of this schedule, well, in addition to those Chiefs, has the entire AFC North slate. Now, that's obviously going to mean 2 tough games with Baltimore. You're going to have 2 tough games with Baltimore every year, regardless of the circumstance. But are the games against the 2 Ohio teams going to be what you thought? I know the Bengals have won a couple in a row, and they've kind of found themselves a little bit of a life raft, but that's still not a great start for them at 3-4. And the Browns are just becoming like an almost Browns level disaster. You know, think about that for a second. It's only going to get worse there. So what you're looking at here is the possibility of the Steelers ending up with a pretty good record and a pretty good overall. I'm going to find these numbers for you here. A pretty good overall set of team statistics that supports that the record is real. The Steelers rank, starting with their strength, number 8 in total defense. Number 8. Within that, they're number 3 in rushing defense. And you can say, all right, well, they're not as great at pass defense, except that they're also, where are the takeaways here? The takeaways, they rank number 2 in turnover differential at +9. They're taking the ball away, and they're not giving the ball away. That is a sign of a very, very good football team, because it also means that you have the natural talent to take the football away. All of this is really, really good stuff, and I haven't even gotten to the special teams, which, listen, with the new kickoff rules and everything else, you can pretty much take returns and coverage and stuff like that right out of the mix when it comes to special teams, because you're not seeing much splash from anybody in any direction anywhere in the league. But when you have one of the 2 or 3 best field goal kickers in the league in Chris Boswell, when you have Corliss Waitman stepping in brilliantly, replacing Cameron Johnston at punter, when you have 1, 2, 3 blocked kicks in as many games, that's unbelievable. You should be getting giddy over a special teams unit that gets you 2 of those a year, let alone 3 in as many games. Also field flipping, also not really an accident, because the Steelers, they practice this stuff, as they keep emphasizing to me, the individual players do. This isn't something that's just, how did Isaiah Loudermilk put it for me? He said, this isn't a lightning strike. We're doing this because we want to do this. This is what we're preparing for. That's a good football team. How high can they go? What can their record be? What kind of seeding can they get? Take care of the game Monday first, right? I think I've even gone too far here.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joining me now from over on the south side, just outside the Steelers headquarters, is Chris Halleck, our beat writer at DK Pittsburgh Sports. What's up in this?
I'm avoiding the
lantern
flies,
Halleck?
which have actually resurrected over here on this. Yeah, they made it back. I did kill a 4 on the walk over this morning, so I was at least able to get them. As I said that, one just landed on me. No joke.
You know, this is just in case anybody thinks Russell Wilson has a chance at comeback player of the year. It's not going to happen. If the lantern flies make it back after it was 40 degrees here last week and they all just vanished, that's going to be the comeback of the year. Chris, whenever you see Mike Tomlin, and again today in his press conference, carry himself with that little bit of extra mojo to him, it's a really strong sign that he's feeling good, not just about himself, but also about the football team. I'm thinking about, like, today, whenever he was asked about Roman Wilson for the 5 billionth time, and he described the way Wilson's practice week went, and he said, Tomlin did, referring to himself, I moved on, meaning when he wasn't able to be a full participant. When Tomlin starts doing the I's and the me's instead of the us's and the we's,
for sure. I think he has a lot of reason to feel good about this football team right now. I mean, they're 5-2.
Yeah.
They are, I would say they're trending upward, not just because they've scored more than 30 points in back-to-back games. I understand one of those games was against the Raiders, but they're playing pretty good football right now. They bounced back from those back-to-back losses to the Colts and the Cowboys, and he might feel like he's got his quarterback now. The quarterback that and
yes, there's also that, isn't there?
Right.
And that he made the call, and he was the Lone Ranger and everything else. But they're a good football team, Chris, but they're great in the second half. And, you know, when Clint Hurdle was managing the Pirates, there was a line he used to use all the time. It was, if it's in there, it's in there. And you have to kind of stop and think, oh, what's that mean? That sounds pretty dumb. But what he means is if you showed it once, if you can hit a 420-foot home run once, chances are you could do it again, maybe. You know, it's in there, it's in there. And the Steelers show that it's in there in the second half of almost every game that they play. And it's not as simple as the whole Najee Harris 15-round fight concept. Najee unquestionably benefits from a second half, from wearing down the opponent, right? So but when you see the entire process, you see the defense get stronger, you see the adjustments get made. They can be that
absolutely
team more often, can't they?
I do think there is a testament to what they are doing at halftime, what they are doing in game. For example, when we saw that against the Raiders first drive, they go right down and score. Now, granted, they told me that was pretty much them just putting everything that they possibly had out there in one drive. Right.
That's what Patrick Queen told me in Las Vegas. He said it was like they used their greatest hits album.
But that's still, okay, this is what you showed us. We're going to make adjustments, and they've gotten better at that. And the reason why I wanted to ask Mike Tomlin about that today is because when I looked at the numbers, the offense is second in the league in points per game in the second half only, and it's like 0.2 points behind the Ravens, and the defense is number 1 in points allowed in the second half. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball, and that's why I wanted to ask Tomlin about that today.
Well, and here is Tomlin's answer to Chris today.
You know, I think that we do a good job of identifying our issues in game, and I think we do a good job of organizing our thoughts in terms of how we choose to address them in game, and oftentimes halftime is the cleanest opportunity to get the bulk of that work done. But we don't wait until halftime. Adjustments and adapting to in-game circumstances, I think, is just a component of good football. I think you got to challenge your staff in that way, and I think you also have to train your players in that way. That's the way we approach practice. We try to simulate that in practice-like settings. A component of that is practicing good on good sometimes, even when sometimes the schematics may not necessarily benefit you. We'll work Steelers versus Steelers this week, and it might not necessarily benefit the units directly in terms of preparing for the Giants, but that competitive environment where you're thinking on your feet and you're adjusting and you're having to adapt to some of the different things that you see, whether it's personnel or schematics, I think whets our appetite to do the things that you outlined.
For anybody who doesn't know, that might be a world record length for a Tomlin answer at a press conference. His preference is very much to do this. If somebody asks a question, he'll say, yes, and then he'll do the scanned. Okay, like as in to say that question wasn't. You're going to give me a yes or no. I'm going to take it. But in this case, he really seemed to embrace the subject matter, and why shouldn't he? That is coaching. Adjustments are coaching. In-game adjustments are coaching. So if he's got a staff that he's feeling good about, and some of the changes that in-game changes that Arthur Smith has made, that Terrell Austin's made, that he's made.
Absolutely. And listen, like that. This is whenever we start getting any kind of blowback that Mike Tomlin's a terrible coach and all this kind of stuff, it always goes to the same stuff. It goes to lack of playoff wins in recent memory. It goes to missed time or poor challenge decisions or bad clock management and all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling what I want to tell every single person is I wish you could actually watch just one practice to see the way this man coaches during a practice, because you see how much this guy loves to coach and how the players respond to his coaching. And so, yeah, anytime that there's a talk about his coaching or the way his coaches coach or the way players respond to it, he's going to go into great lengths about it because he just loves talking about it. So...
yeah, there's no hiding and there's no running from the lack of playoff success. The great TJ Watt, and I don't think that's hyperbole, has yet to win, I should say, a playoff game. That's insane. And that's 100%. Very much at Tomlin's feet. A great group, a great, historically great offense just before that with Ben Roethlisberger and that line and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. Didn't win a Super Bowl. That's at Tomlin's feet.
No,
don't think he doesn't know that. Okay, we're not covering it up, right? We're not covering it up. But the stuff that people like me and Chris get to see on a daily basis are the little details, the times that he spends with guys who, anybody who's watching this would think is some kind of nobody. But whenever you hear a story like who was the wide receiver that ended up making the big play early on this year?
There was Skoranek made a couple. There was
it was on the road. Miller, the little wide receiver.
Yeah,
that's the play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Scotty Miller was on the hold. That's what it was. Okay. When Cameron Johnston got hurt, it was Tomlin near the end of a practice who just walked up to a group of guys and said, "Hey, any of you ever hold? I need somebody just in case. You never know who's going to be needed to hold." And Miller's like, "I mean, I guess I could try it." Tomlin points him to a different part of the field and says, "All right, get over there and take a few snaps." "Yes, coach." Goes over there, and what do you know? He's out on the field doing it for real and winning the game. And Chris Boswell tells him, this is the way Miller relayed the story to me. Chris Boswell tells him, "Don't worry about it. Just put it down there somewhere. I'll get it through." And Miller's like looking over at the uprights going, You sure about this? But he at least had a few snaps in practice because the head coach thought of it. It's funny, Chris. I can tell, even if we're having this discussion, we're making everybody mad.
I feel it.
You
I feel
that?
it right now.
You feel that?
There's going to be a bunch of negative comments. I'm sure there is.
Listen, it does matter that they win a playoff game. Duh, obviously, okay? But you can also put yourself in a position to win a playoff game by having a better regular season record, by having a good in-conference record. All of that's happening right now. They need to continue becoming a better football team. The question that I think might be fairest, as long as we're lavishing all this praise about these adjustments, is, well, why aren't they the team that the opponent is adjusting to? Do you follow me? Because you're not seeing great starts.
Yeah, you
Steelers
would definitely like to see better starts. And you have to be in this league in order to have sustained success. You have to be able to play more complete games. But it's funny, as I was just last night watching the Americas game on the 2013 Seahawks, because I'm trying to learn more about Russell Wilson. And Pete Carroll, the great coach that used to coach for the Seahawks, said it's not always about how you start, it's about how you finish. And I immediately resonated with, like, okay, this team right now is finishing almost better than anybody else in this game right now. And we're only in October. There's still all of November to go. There's still all of December to go. They are still building toward that. And listen, they only have to go 5-5 the rest of the way to finish with a 10-7 record. Anything less than that right now is a failure, absolute failure. So you should pretty much just already say if they just play even 500 ball, they're going to play at least one playoff game. So keep building towards that. And if they can become a team that isn't just red hot in the second half, that maybe they start playing better for 3 quarters instead of 2, then maybe this is a team that actually has a chance to win at least one playoff game. And who knows what happens at that point.
See, that was Chris. That wasn't me. He was the one that did that. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for J1Q. That's just one question. And today's entry comes from Austin Peffer in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, known better as the Pef.
DK, the Pep is back in a very good mood after that win against the Jets. I gotta ask you something. I know we typically don't make these extensions and big contracts in the middle of the season, but is Najee Harris becoming an exception to the rule? What do you think?
You know, at some point or other in this franchise's history, the rule is going to be broken. But I don't think it'll be for Najee, because I don't think it'll have to be for Najee. I have not once gotten the sense, the Pef, that Najee wants out. Najee wants to be somewhere else. If anything, if you think about the nature of the Arthur Smith offense, if you think about Najee's specific role within that offense, meaning when everybody's healthy and when Jaylen Warren is there to offset or to distract or to, confuse a little bit the other guys, he really, really fits well here. Now, that's not to say that one of the other 31 teams couldn't create something similar, but it would take a long time. And running backs by trade don't have a long time. They don't have long careers. Once you get to your late 20s, they start talking about you as if you're, grizzled veteran. Najee fits here. Najee, the way he's run the last couple of weeks, and remember, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a couple of weeks. Looks like someone who you could build around for the next 2-3 years. He's going downhill. He's attacking holes. He's not doing the pseudo Le'Veon Bell thing. You know what I'm talking about. Whenever he would get to the line, he didn't like what he sees, so he would think, all right, well, I'm Le'Veon, so I'm just going to hang on and see what develops. No. There was one guy that could do that, and he's not in the league anymore. He needs to be moving downhill. I don't like the pitches, but I'm okay with the pitches whenever he sees, like, the open left side that he had on that 31-yarder to start out the other night. But do I think that Omar Khan, and remember Art Rooney would be involved in a decision of this magnitude, are going to say, after not doing the fifth-year option, after everything else, to go in the middle of the season and say, hey, Naj, we didn't do this for Troy Polamalu. We didn't do this for anybody, but we're going to do it for you. We're afraid you're going to leave us, and we're going to sign you now. No. If everything continues to go as it is, and the Steelers have themselves, as Chris was just saying in the last segment, 5-2 now. If they even go 5-5, they've got a 10-7 season. You'd like to think there's a healthy playoff trajectory here. If they have some postseason success, just sit down with him after that and say, hey, we love having you here. You stuck it to us. You proved us wrong. You made us realize that we should have done this and that and whatever, and you give him the W. Just hand it to him. Simple as that. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who checks out Double Shot, and we'll be back with another one of these tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern.